Avatar Kyoshi lived to be 230 years old, while Avatar Kuruk lived to be 33 years old. So Avatar Kyoshi was the oldest avatar, while Avatar Kuruk was the youngest avatar. So 230 and 33. So 33 years old, 230 years old, which means all the other avatars would have been somewhere in between. So Avatar Aang lived for 166 years because he lived for 12 years and then he was trapped in an iceberg for 100 years. And then, of course, that means he lived for 54 years after getting out of the iceberg. So, yeah, he's right there in the middle. And Avatar Roku lived for 70 years. And we don't know the lifespans of the other avatars, although speculation, we could say that this Earth avatar guy with the long beard, he looks pretty old, but I mean, Iroh also looked pretty old, but Iroh really wasn't that old, so you can't really go by looks. And like the way the avatars look in the after in the spirit world, like it's not the same as the way they looked right when they died, because Aang did not look like this right before he died. He looked a lot older. Whereas Roku did look like this before he died, so what influences how the avatars appear in the spirit world is beyond me, but we can't just assume that certain avatars are old just because they look old. They might be even older, or they might be younger. And so Avatar 1, before he died, by the way, he looks young in the spirit world, but he was pretty old when he died. So he looked pretty old when he died, but it's unclear how old he was. Now, with Avatar 1, so we don't know the ages of the avatars, but the thing is, if Kuruk lived 33 years, ideally, theoretically, he could have lived longer. Like, a normal human being should have lived longer than 33. So if Kuruk had lived longer than 33, then maybe he would have been around during the time of Chin the Conqueror, because I think Avatar Kyoshi was about 42. I'm not entirely sure on the math there. I just calculated from what was said in the series, but she would have been about 42 when she defeated Chin the Conqueror. So if Kuruk had still been alive, then Kyoshi would not have been born, and Avatar Kuruk would have fought Chin the Conqueror. And Avatar Kuruk would have still defeated Chin the Conqueror. Of course, Avatar Kuruk would have been 76 at the time, but I mean, so what? So Avatar Kuruk would have still easily defeated Chin the Conqueror. And let's say Avatar Kyoshi only lived for about 100 years. Well, then Avatar Roku might have been born a lot sooner. And let's say Avatar Roku lived a little longer, to be like 102. Well, then Avatar Aang would have been born maybe a little later, a little sooner, and if Avatar Aang had never gone to the iceberg, he would have also died sooner. And the water avatar Korra would have been born around the time of, like, right in the middle of the 100-Year War, so like right towards the end of the time period of the 100-Year War or something. Even though the 100-Year War might not even have happened in the scenario. You see what I mean? There are so many scenarios and ways and things that would have changed if the avatars had lived longer or shorter. So it's really astonishing, because the lifespan of the avatar determines how they handle things, and what I mean when I say the lifespan determines how they handle things is that imagine having 85-year-old Avatar Aang fighting the Red Lotus rather than 18-year-old Avatar Korra fighting the Red Lotus. It would have been a different scenario. Whether that's better or worse is up for debate, because sure, if maybe Aang had fought the Red Lotus, he would have been a lot more, I guess, powerful, if you will, and defeated the Red Lotus. He would have been more experienced. But Korra was younger, and so maybe she would have fought better. Like, it's hard to say. Or if Avatar Roku had still been around, then he would have been 82 when Fire Lord Sozin tried to wipe out the Air Nomads, but Avatar Roku would have easily destroyed Fire Lord Sozin. Whereas if Avatar Kyoshi had lived for like 300 or 400 years, she would have just destroyed Fire Lord Sozin without a second thought. And Avatar Kuruk would have easily been Chin the Conqueror. It's hard to put into words, but you get my point in that it's just astonishing, because some of the avatars had longer or shorter lifespans than most, and If they had just lived a little longer or a little shorter or a lot longer or a lot shorter, they would have handled the situations in the world a lot more differently. So it's interesting to think about.